Today we got a special guest, pretty lady named Susie. Made her ourselves.
Susie is a whiteboard driven by Peter Findera himself.
She also a money maker.
She is a moneymaker with two breasts to represent the Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And we're also going to talk about why breast cancer is a big issue for this month, right?
Yep.
So in today's episode, in the honor of Breast Cancer Awareness Month, we're going to talk about topics ranging from everything about how breast cancer starts. One statistic about breast cancer is that it's an estimated that 41,000 people die from breast cancer every year in the United States, women.
It's very unfortunate. It's probably the most prevalent cancer in women, correct? Breast cancer is.
I think so, yes. And 1 in 8 women develop breast cancer in their lifetime. So it is a sad disease. And if you're a male, this is still relevant to you because 1% of all breast cancers are males. So you still have a prevalence of getting it, and you should still do like a self breast exam or get checked up if you feel there's something different about your breasts.
Yeah, it's kind of weird to think about. If you think of breasts, you probably think of females, and males are also prone to breast cancer. It's very rare in males, but it does happen, which is pretty interesting too.
Yeah, 1%. Breast cancer. So breast cancer is a disease that basically it's malignant. These cancer cells from the tissue create abnormalities. Usually your DNA has a specific chain of information on how to do things. And what starts happening is these healthy cells starts mutation processes, right? And these abnormal cells grow, they invade, and they start invading other cells and start replicating the same way as this cancer. And we know that the basic building blocks of cells goes into tissues, and sometimes when it metastasizes, right, or it grows too large, it becomes a tumor, and this tumor could affect different areas of the body.
So a lot of times when we hear, or almost all the time when we hear cancer, we think of a tumor. But not all tumors are carcinogenic. They're not all malignant. So you have your benign tumors and your malignant tumors. So a tumor is just a mass in tissue, so abnormal growth in cells. But when it's benign, those cells aren't cancerous. So just abnormal growth. A lot of times we hear benign growth is like BPH, benign prostate hypertrophy, where your prostate gets bigger. It's not cancerous, it just grows. And then that's not considered cancer. Sometimes you get it removed. So usually they just let it ride out because if it doesn't affect any kind of cells.
If it's benign, there's no need to.
Yeah, right. But there's points where a benign tumor does get super big, or it grows so big that it kind of pushes or puts pressure on other tissues, and that's when it becomes an issue. But at that point, it's still not cancerous. It's just a benign growth that grows that you got to get removed because it's, like I said, putting pressure on other tissues and areas of the body. But when you have a malignant tumor, that's the one that actually has cancerous cells. That's the one that's going to keep reproducing, and that's cancerous itself, and you're also a risk for it spreading, being more malignant, and that's where it's full out cancer, unfortunately.
And that's where the two different terms come from, malignant and benign. And when you actually have cancer cells, those are the ones that are actually having negative effects on your body. Yeah. The tumor that's just growing, it's just doing its thing, and just like Peter said, it could just happily be there.
Yeah.
And I think some women do have regular lumps, correct? Like sometimes even men, like you have an abnormal growth somewhere and it could be nothing.
Yeah, some women do have in their breasts, even though it's kind of scary at first, but some women naturally do have like nodules and like little tiny lumps in their breasts bilaterally or on one side, and those aren't malignant, or they're not benign either. They're just a normal growth that just been there their whole life, and it's kind of how their breast tissue is.
And cancer. So breast cancer is 15 different types, guys, and we're not going to go into the nitty-gritty of every single one of them. But the most common one is the invasive ductal carcinoma, IDC, right? And it accounts for 80% of all breast cancers. And the way it works is it invades the milk, right? The milk ducts.
Yes.
In the breasts, and those things are basically the pipes, is what we call them for anything that happens. I'm sorry, I'm just losing my train of thought here.
So this cancer is basically in the ducts on the breast. So that's where the milk is produced, and with those ducts, they carry milk to like the nipple, and that's basically where the most prominent cancer is. I'm not sure what the reasoning behind it is. Maybe just because there's a lot of milk production there. Maybe those cells regenerate more.
And it could be over time, just your natural process is what happens. And it accounts for 2/3 of the cancer in women that are 55 and older. Right by the armpit is where all your nodules are for the breast. Sometimes that carcinoma could infiltrate the lymph nodes, and that's where we start getting a problem where we test the lymph nodes as well to see whether the cancer is spreading somewhere in the body.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, it's scary because like Matt said, you have a lot of lymph nodes around your breast area and your armpit area, and that's the direct highway from your breast. And once the cancer cells infiltrate your lymph system, they could go wherever they want.
And a lot of people think that breast cancer is more gene, like your family is predisposed to breast cancer and you're going to get it. But according to what we did, the research shows that only, is it 10%?
Yeah, 5 to 10%.
5 to 10% of breast cancer is actual genetic.
Yeah.
Most of it is from environmental, smoking, drinking, all those little sedentary lifestyles, lack of activity, and then of course maybe being overweight. So environment has a greater role on the genes because genes upregulate. Sometimes they turn on and off constantly based on what we're doing, guys. That's why we say that genetics are so important. But do you think in medicine things are kind of being pushed away from genetics and now we're seeing that it's more environmental?
If you want to watch or listen to our latest episode,
you can check us out on Apple, Spotify, or watch us on YouTube.